כל השנה הלכות בכל יום מובטח לו שהוא בן העולם הבא. בעזרת השם, we are holding on the 26th of Elul, Tuesday, the third day of Parashat Shabbat Rosh Hashanah. Bezrat Hashem, we'll be discussing today 3 mitzvot as we outlined already, just to finish the mitzvot before the end of the year, before Friday. And Bezrat Hashem, the mitzvah number 1 is going to be discussed 602. We're not allowed to own faulty weights, and it sounds like even a collectible item. Somebody has a collectible or an antique item that's weights that are still functioning. We'll see. It's a question if you're allowed to own such a thing or not. It looks like over here you may not have any weights that are functioning that have the faulty measures. 603. Okay, this is not included, as we already outlined before, that all the tzarot here, all the tzarot today are lechoira, a Jew is selling in the lumber yard. He's selling in lumber yard and he's selling 2x4. Before Clinton and Shimo introduced China to America, 2x4 was 2x4. After Clinton and Shimo introduced China to America, so this Jew is selling lumber yard 2x4, the beams. They're less than 2x4. They're 1.74 by 3.89, and it's talking about if a Jew is selling it. All of a sudden, what happens since then? The judges outlined in America, you can't say God in school anymore. They have to teach children tivlut. Why? When it says in the Chinuch, if Jews are playing with measures, whenever Jews start playing with measures, when they're faulty, the whole world goes corrupt. So now we know. So this is a Shimo Clinton, and now the Jews. The problem is the Jews selling 2x4 wood, and it's false. It's asur. You can't sell. A Jew is selling linen, right? He goes to China. He does textile business. Yeah, Jonathan, and he sells items. It says 700 thread. If it says 700 thread, and the China people are known to say 700, but really it's 650, right? Whose fault is it? It's his fault. Because he's selling what China is giving it to him. 100% it's his fault. So they will be discussing that over there, a Jew is responsible for it. And the government should be punishing these people, all these thieves that are selling items that are marked one way, but really they are not what they are marked as. And here, this is related, 602, we'll be discussing about faulty weights. Mitzvah number 603. We must remember what Amalek did to us when we're discussing today. And 604, we must destroy all traces of Zera Amalek. Bezrat Hashem, the mitzvot are sponsored today. לרפואה שלמה. לכל חולי עמו ישראל, ובכללם לחיה בת לאה, יוסף חיים המברד, יעקב ישראל דניאל בן אנג'לה. And Bezrat Hashem, we are ready to start. Mitzvah number 602. There is a prohibition in the Torah, שלא נשם אוזניים ומשקלים השרים עמנו אף על פי שלא נשא ונתן בהן. Here, even though you have antique antiquities, a beautiful antique measure, scales, the rabbi says, even if you're not going to do business with them, you're prohibited to have it at home. So if there is a collector out there that does antiques, and he has scales that are 1,000 years old, and it's worth maybe $10 billion, he better sell them quickly because he's not allowed to own them. Because it's the right to have it in your house. שנמנעו שלא להשהות את המשקלים והמאזניים החסרים בבתינו. We are prohibited from the Torah to have something that could be that is used for misleading people that have not adequate weights. If it says 5 kilos and really it's 4.9, it's asur. ואף על פי שלא נשא ונתן במקרנו ומחרנו בהן פן יהיה לנו למוקש. The point over here is that, as Rambam outlined, we learn in Hilchot Teshuvah that the sin, that there is such a concept of atmosphere in the area of a person that is involved in, that causes sin. So the rabbi says over here also, there's a Torah prohibition to own the scales that are not right. Why? Because it's gonna be machshil, it's gonna stumble block you. Your neshama is connected to this world, and you are a Jew. And since we are Jews, we're all connected, intertwined with spirituality. So if Hashem tells us, mitzvah number 602, we are prohibited to own such scales, that means it's going to be mashpia on you for ra'ah. On its own, it's going to be bad for you, says Rabbi. So the mokesh is going to stumble block you. You might come and say, no, Rabbi, it's talking about you might come to use it the wrong way. Nobody's using an antique $100,000 or $200,000 scales from 1,000 years ago. He's not using it, right? But still, you're not allowed to own it. It says in chapter Dvarim, chapter 25, pasuk 13, you may not own this. Hashem says you may not have. He didn't say you may not use. Right? You hear the play on words? Hashem didn't say you may not use faulty scales. He says you may not own faulty scales. So if you own a $10 million faulty scales, you are in that problem. You're in the problem. As it says, okay, you may not have all those things. As it says over there in Mesachta Bava Batra, page 89, Amud Bet. Asur la'adam she'yeh midah chasera o yetera b'toch beito, ve'afilu hu avid shel mimei raglayim. A person may not even have a faulty measurement like this. He has a container where when he makes number one too, right? Says the rabbi. The Gemara says if it says, let's say, here's a container, Habibi, and it says this line is 5 liters, right? And he uses the container only for what? For number one. He's not going to use it ever for food. He's not using anything. Even then, the Gemara says you're not allowed to have it. If it has a measure and it's a wrong measure, even then you're not allowed to have it. Even though you're using it for something that's very disgusting, still you may not own it. Why? Because Chas v'Shalom, somebody will come and will not know what you're using it for. He'll only use it for food, and it will be mikshol. Chas v'Shalom. וכתב הרמב"ם ז"ל, the Rambam explains over there בספר מצוות, ואל תחשוב שיהיו 2 מצוות אחד שהם 2 לווין. אמנם באלו, so it says, no, this is not two commandments and 2 עבירות. אמנם באו להשלים דיני המצוות עד שיכללו 2 מיני השיעור, okay, והם המשקל והמידה. So he says that over here, the weight and the measure, the weight of the measure, it's considered to be 1 mitzvah. כאילו הוא אומר, לא יהיה לך 2 שעורים, לא במידה ולא במשקל. So it said that a person should not have, not by weight and not by measure. It's actually, so he's combining it into one isur, one avera, one mitzvah. So it's all one prohibition. Because they're all related. So the Rambam over here wants to say it's one mitzvah. שהן לאו אחד לפי שהעניין אחד אלא שנאמרו לביאור תשלום העניין. So over there the Torah talks about you may not own, right, chametz. You may not own chametz or anything that's chametz cannot be seen. So but really it's one avera, but it's coming to I guess more elaboration on the mitzvah. Okay. So same thing here. It's more elaborated. The Torah tells you may not own scales and measures. Right, the measure means the length. Like we said, 2x4 may not be sold in America by a Jew. 2x4 wood bichlal unless it's 2x4, or you have to market it as it is. By the way, I believe in Home Depot they market it. They tell you 2x4 and they tell you real measurement. Meaning in Home Depot could be that they're protecting themselves from this avera. Baruch Hashem. If you take a look at Home Depot on their stickers, when they tell you this is 2x4, right underneath of it, it actually tells you approximate measurement. So in that case, maybe 2x4 is real, just the name, it's not real size. But let's say a person is selling with diamonds or selling jewelry. Say very careful. If it's 0.99 carat, you cannot say it's 1 carat. It has to be marketed as it is. Mishusha mitzvah, what's the purpose of tzad? Already we spoke about this whole concept of, as we said, mitzvah number 259 is already outlined in the beginning of the Shmuz today, that it's talking about all the avlot, all the misjudgments and misrulings of the society, like we see today. In the past 25 years in America, the judges are outrageously making crazy rulings, and it has to be because of this. As we see what happened in the last 30 years, as Clinton and Shlomo was the president, he completely went to China, and we know China has zero problem with lying and cheating people, as we already know that that even what's his name, imams, you know that halal meat was bought from China. Yeah, Rabbi, you heard about this? 7 years ago, Avram. 7 years ago, they discovered from China they were selling them goat halal meat, and it was fake. It was actually pig meat. The Chinese made goat meat, pig meat, tastes like goat meat, and they were selling to Arab countries halal meat from pig as halal goat meat. Okay, so stay away from China. They are liars, cheaters. As already Rabbi Yashiv Paskin, you're not allowed to buy even organs from the China because it's all they're killing people and mamash corruption. China is all about corruption, and unfortunately here in America the Jews are, business is business. They think chas v'shalom. A person has to be very honest in his business. This avera is noheget b'chol zman b'chol makom. Bezacharim v'nekivot. Doesn't matter you are a man or a woman. If you're doing business, you have to be very clear. Now let's see. What about if somebody does sell items that are faulty? What do we do with him? Do we give him malkut? There's action here. No, we say there is no malkut. Why? Because davar sheyesh b'tashlomin, he has to pay back what he stole. He has to pay back the difference, and if he pays back, then he doesn't get lashes. Mitzvah number 603. Mitzvah zeschor ma she'asa lecha Amalek leYisrael b'tzitam mitzrayim. So this is a very vicious mitzvah, right? We are commended. Again, why are we commended? Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, remember what somebody did that to you. Jews in reality are all very humble people, and because Jews we have a problem. We have a problem that we believe in Hashem, and everything is from Hashem, and we throw everything on Hashem. So Hashem was worried that we're going to come and say, Hashem caused us pain from Amalek, so who cares? Let's just forget about Amalek doing anything for us. So the Torah comes and tells us, no. Hashem says, I know you are a simple people and you are humble people and you will not behold grudge. I'm telling you, over here it's a mitzvah to behold a grudge, as it says in the Mitzvah chapter 24, pasuk 20. Reshit goim Amalek. Bamidbar, sorry. Bamidbar chapter 24, pasuk 20. Reshit goim Amalek. That it's the head of the goyim is the Amalek. V'tirgumu resh kravia de Israel have Amalek. שהכל היו יראים מהם בשמם היד הגדולה אשר עשה להם. Everybody was afraid of the Jewish nation. All the worlds. Every nation was afraid to touch the Jews. Came the Amalek, the head of all the Goyim, and he attacked us. And now because of him, we are the most despised nation by the Goyim, and they're trying to harm us all the time. And right, even though such a gentle nation. So therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu says in Mitzvah chapter 25 in pasuk Zayin in Devarim, Zachor et asher aseh lecha Amalek b'derech b'tzedchem b'Mitzrayim. Remember what Amalek did for you when you came out of Egypt. Why we're mentioning up the mitzvah over here, Egypt? Very important. The mitzvah of the word Egypt has to be mentioned because the whole mahut, the whole otzma, the whole entirety of the Jewish nation it was established by coming out of Egypt. That was the entirety of the Jewish nation, as we already mentioned many times before. That we constantly, every day we mention Egypt. Every time we mention Egypt, because that was the construction of the Jewish nation. Yeah? And now by us coming out of there, nobody wanted to attack us. Came Amalek and attacked us. He attacked us to diminish our honor in the world, to diminish our self-confidence, so to speak. And because he came to diminish our self-confidence, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to remember that forever. What did he really want to do? He wanted to make sure the Jew does not have confidence. As we know, a human being who doesn't have confidence, he does averot all day, everywhere, anytime. Most people, when they start doing averot, when they become depressed, when they feel abandoned, when they feel no self-confidence, when they have no self-importance, then a person does averot, Rahman al-Islam. So that was Amalek's purpose. Amalek, not that he wanted to come and fight with us just because. No, he wanted the Jewish nation to have ruined self-confidence. And now it's a mitzvah to hate them and to remember what they did to us, and in order to establish back the mitzvah, לתת על ליבנו שכל המצר לישראל שנוא לפני השם ברוך הוא. And therefore, anyone who causes harm to Jews, it's a mitzvah to hate this person. וכי לפי רעתו ברמת רוב נזכו, תהיה מפעלתו ורעתו כמו שאתה מוציא בעמלק, כי מפני שעשה רעה גדולה לישראל, שהתחיל הוא להחזיקם ציוונו ברוך הוא, לאבד זכרם מיני ארץ ולשורש אחריו עד כלה. And now we are commanded, because anyone who causes harm to the Jews, we are obligated to wipe them out and completely eradicate. And that's mitzvah number 604. Mitzvah leachrid zaro shel Amalek. The Torah tells us we complete this mitzvah, 603 and 604 are intertwined. We must remember and we must destroy it. Why we must destroy it? Again, the whole concept is over here is to rebuild the confidence of the Jewish nation and to return atara leyoshna, to return this ga'ava. I'm going to sin, chas v'shalom, I'm going to sin. And that's what Amalek is actually causing us. ועל הסקירה הזאת בלב ובפה לא יעדנו בזמן קבוע בשנה או ביום. Okay, so therefore, we don't have certain time where we must hate Amalek. Yes, on Purim is actually brought out, and it's brought down that on Purim, what do? You take a piece of pen and paper and you write every time Amalek's name and you erase it. It's a mitzvah. But it sounds like any time. This mitzvah is always 24/7, 365 days a year. We have this mitzvah of hating Amalek. And I'm telling you right now, why is Hashem telling it to this Adin, such a nation which is so humble and so calm, the nation of calm people, right? This mitzvah is to awaken within us the Ga'ava, the Azud. I am a daughter of Avraham Avinu. I'm going to go stick with the goy. I'm a son of Avraham Avinu. I'm going to go chas v'shalom touch a goya. I'm going to go and hurt and do harm to Jewish nation, chas v'shalom, or even to myself. That's the ga'ava. That's the ga'ava a person has to have, and that's what Amalek came to destroy. Amalek came to take away your ga'ava. And what were they doing to Jewish people? Do you know what they were doing? Says Midrash, they were cutting off the private of men. Cutting off the private of men, the men that they caught, the men that were tameh, the men that spoke lashon hara, they had tzorat, they were outside of the camp, outside of the clouds. They were thrown out, right? So Amalek captured those. He caught those, and he killed them, and then he cut off the private and threw them up into the cloud, showing to the Jewish people. That's where the Jewish people will make big mistakes, and they're right, as we know that Yaakov Avinu was hit by the angel of Esav in that place. For what? To significantly show that the Jewish people will do sin in that place. And Amalek came to make sure to point it out to the Jews all the time. So, yeah, the angel of Yaakov hit him in the yerech, in the thigh. The Torah is talking to you language that is clean, but in reality, he hit him in that place. And why in that place? In order to indicate to Yaakov Avinu that his offspring will be doing avirot with that place, and that will be downfall of every generation that has this problem. There will be a downfall. When that is done, and came Amalek and pointed out to the Jewish people, you think you're such a big shot? Here, let me show you something. Chop off the thing, throw it. This is going to be your reserve. That part they were holding and throwing it in it's done.
They killed
the Jews that were outside of the encampment, and they castrated them, and that was the whole thing. They were again declaring and taking away from Jews the otzma, the self-confidence, and because they did it, they took away the self-confidence from the Jews, and now Kadosh Baruch Hu is commenting us to destroy them. This mitzvah even today. If you know somebody was Amalek, that's why I'm very careful. I'm very upset when anybody with a beard or somebody older tells people this guy is Amalek, this person is Amalek. Chas v'shalom. I have problems with a lot of Rabbanim that throw out children from schools. I have a question. Maybe they're Amalek. But I would never say that they're Amalek. Yeah. But they could be like Amalek, because how we know? Who throws out a child from the yeshiva? Who was fighting in our Torah to take out children from the yeshivas? Who was it? The Midrash says, Haman, Amalek. Haman came to Mordechai, and the whole point was to take children out of the yeshiva. And this today, Rabbanim, you have this evil, call themselves Agudath Israel, they call themselves Torah Masorah, all this Rashaim organizations. They are Rashaim. I don't think they're Amalek, but they're Rashaim, evil. They're mamish pure evil. How dare them to declare it's okay to throw out children out of the yeshivas because the parents don't want to put them in experimental shots. That's a question if they're Amalek. I have a question. To me, it's a safek. Maybe they are Amalek, and I would not be in doubt that the Agudath Israel is ran by Amalek and by Christian organization, as we already discussed many times. Hashem Rachem Aleinu. And any yeshiva, any rabbi, any administration that throws out any child today because they don't want to be part of experiments, as rightfully it's Isur Doraita, it's Asur Doraita to force, or even the parent cannot take his child to a doctor for experimental shots. Chas v'shalom, it's Isur Doraita, as outlined many times before in many of my speeches. Okay, as we said, so that's mitzvah over הזה, ולא זכר בלבו וקרא בפיו מעולם, מה שעשה עמלק לישראל, ביטל עשה זה. Now, therefore, that's what we do. Once a year, we go to Parashat Zachor, and we obligate it because we want to fulfill this mitzvah. We must remember what Amalek did to us, and you must say it out loud, and repeat it to yourself, and whoever didn't, chas v'shalom, is breaking mitzvah number 603. Mitzvah 604, just, I know you have to go quickly. Mitzvah number 604 says, mitzvah in Dvarim, chapter 25, pasuk 19, Timche et zecher Amalek. We are obligated to eradicate the memories of the Amalek. ועובר על זה, ובא לידו אחד מזרעו עמלק, ויש סיפק בידו להורגו ולא הרגו, ביטל עשה זה. Now, today, if a person is Navi, let's say that somehow Mashiach is going to come right now, right? Mashiach comes, so Mashiach we know that is going to be predestined by Eliyahu Navi. So everybody knows Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Navi, Zachur L'Tov, is the real Malach, real Malach Hashem, he's a prophet, and he's telling us this guy is Amalek. We have an obligation to kill that guy. And if somebody who doesn't fulfill that mitzvah is going to transgress mitzvah number 603, so he did not fulfill the mitzvah 603 of Hashem, 604, to eradicate Amalek. But today, since we don't know who Amalek, that's why a person has to be very careful who you're going to brand as Amalek. I'm saying all the people who are Agudath Israel, Torah U'Masorah, all those organizations that promote, all the yeshivas promote throwing out kids from schools. It's a question, a doubt in my head. I would say 90% close to Amalek's, they're offspring of Amalek, and not from a Jewish offspring. But it doesn't mean that they are Amalek, and they should not be harmed. Chas v'shalom, and Bezat Hashem should protect Am Israel and give us Yad Adishmaya. Tavshin Pei Dalet should be a beautiful, wonderful year. And of course, by pointing out the evil and eradicating evil out of us, that's the only way we could cause good for us, for Am Israel.